Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. Every so often when I finish a handful of books, generally 3 but sometimes 4, I film a video which I call a recent reads video. I have a whole playlist of such videos. I can put a link to that in the description box. So the last recent reads video that I did was about 2 months ago, and I have only just finished 3 novels since then, and that one was after a bit of hiatus as well. So the last 3 months saw me involved with a all-encompassing writing project, which is now done, and I'm trying to get back into the swing of reading. This year I have been reading the history of England and France in North America by Francis Parkman. That has been on hiatus for these several months, and I have also been reading books of Chinese archaeology. Well, when I finished this writing project, I was not at all in the mood to read. Reading requires a different sort of discipline, and so I'm trying to work myself back into the habit, or the practice, I should say, so that I can get back to those other books which are my great ambition and goal for this year. So to ease myself back into the practice of reading, I thought I should just go with some novels. And I began with The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett. And it was very good. I enjoyed it very much. I'm not a big reader of noir novels, but I have read a number of them. And this one seemed sort of iconic, I guess, maybe because even though I don't think I've seen the movie in full, I knew enough about the story. I had seen excerpts of it, so I think it was already in my head a little bit. And so to a degree, it differed from the movie in that, say, the Sam Spade character is very different to Humphrey Bogart. Never a favorite actor of mine, but I do think he was in some interesting movies. But as far as the novel itself, his writing, Hammett's writing was very good, but he would get into particulars. I think I posted a sentence where he described in great detail the making of and then the eating of a sandwich. So there was the missing crescent where the bite had been taken from it. Going into the topic of eating the sandwich in much greater detail than I think we would do now. The novel, while it was engaging, it lacked the thick, dense atmosphere that I have found and enjoyed in other noir novels. So I don't think I will rush off to read another one. I had considered after this picking up The Thin Man, and having recently read an essay by Michael Ventura about Ernest Hemingway, he was in my mind, and one of my viewers suggested that I should read some Hemingway. I think specifically A Farewell to Arms, and so I said to myself, that is what I will do. That will possibly be more edifying than another Hammett book. And so here is the copy of A Farewell to Arms, which I read. Not my own copy, but my partner's copy. It's one of a set. There's several books that look just like this. I think some of them appeared in a video that I made, that Michael Ventura essay, as a matter of fact. Michael Ventura's essay, I'll put a link to that in the description box if I think of it, or you can just scroll back on my page. really put me into a sympathetic mood with Hemingway. I have not been sympathetic with Hemingway. When I was young, I read A Movable Feast and I read the Nick Adams stories, and I liked them, but I think I was distracted by the famous persona of Hemingway and found him dislikable somewhat. Also in school, we were forced to read that story, The Short, Happy Life of Francis Macomber, or whatever the title, and I did not like that at all. That was when I was forced to read it in a class. So I have not gone back to Hemingway since then. We're talking readings that must have been done 40 some years ago, 45 years ago maybe. And on BookTube, a lot of other booktubers bring up Hemingway occasionally and speak positively of him. Brian at the Bookish Texan has a series where he talks about Hemingway's lesser novels or bad Hemingway novels. I don't know if that was how he phrased it. And I thought, gee, with Michael Ventura's sympathetic view and all of these, all of these positive testimonies from other booktubers, I really ought to give Hemingway a chance. And a lot of people seemed to think that this was a good book, as well as my viewer saying that she was going to, or was hoping for an excuse to read this again. So I did. And so having a long-standing animus against Hemingway, this book just repealed all of those ancient prejudices, and I loved this book. So this was the second book in the trio, and I loved this book, just all of it. The book is divided into 4 parts, and I don't want to get into the story too much, but the story is told in a very linear fashion. And the book, there is one scene where there's a bit of an escape, and all of it is very well done, but it reminded me so much of a book by, I can't remember the author. The title is The 39 Steps. It was made into a movie by Alfred Hitchcock. It's a very good adventure story. It involves a long sort of chase scene, and the novel is very short, and that whole first part of the 39 Steps, and the major part of the novel, except for like the last 2 or 3 chapters, is full of excitement and action, and it just keeps you at the edge of your seat. And then at the end of that novel, just everything falls apart, and it just doesn't make any sense, or hardly makes any sense. Well, I realized reading this that Hemingway could do anything that other author could do, and do it better. So, I mean, I have to say, in every aspect about Hemingway, my estimation just rose from my preconceived notions. Michael Ventura said that Hemingway did not tend to portray fully fleshed out or realistic female characters. Well, the female character, the main female lead in this, seemed utterly realistic and believable, though he may not have delved into her too much. It really was the man's story, so it was not a deficit to my mind, because his story was the one that we were following. It brought a whole, or it shed a whole different light upon the action of the First World War. Somebody said, and I don't know where I saw this, that Hemingway subsequently wrote some novel that dealt with the Second World War. He felt he had to tackle that or nail that. And that was not his war. It was when he was dealing with the First World War that he was really in his métier. And indeed, it really gave me a sense of just so much more about the war than I had known previously. Of course, my major familiarity with the First World War is with the war poets, Wilfred Owen in particular, but all of them really. And then, of course, I had read some of E.D. Morell's book about the diplomatic machinations behind the start of the war. So I had sort of the individual soldier's perspective, and I had the diplomat's perspective. And this was a totally different view. I don't know. I got the sense that this followed his life a little bit. He, I believe, was an ambulance driver in Italy, and so was the character in this book. And a lot of, I think, writers did that. I know E.E. Cummings did. I don't think in Italy. But it gave a much more comprehensive view of the action on the ground than anything that I've read, as well as being a good story. Now, I came across the paragraph, and this floored me at the time, particularly, I think, the first sentence, but it was the whole paragraph just was unexpected, and just looking it up to post it on my community tab on YouTube, I saw many references to it. It's famous for being Hemingway's perfect paragraph, and I thought I would read it to you. That night at the hotel, in our room with the long empty hall outside and our shoes outside the door, a thick carpet on the floor of the room, outside the windows, the rain falling, and in the room, the light and pleasant and cheerful, and then the light out, and it exciting with smooth sheets and the bed comfortable, feeling that we had come home, feeling no longer alone, waking in the night to find the other one there and not gone away. All other things were unreal. We slept when we were tired, and if we woke, the other one woke too, so one was not alone. Often a man wishes to be alone, and a girl wishes to be alone too, and if they love each other, they are jealous of that in each other. But I can truly say we never felt that. We could feel alone when we were together, alone against the others. It has only happened to me like that once. I have been alone while I was with many girls, and that is the way that you can be most lonely. But we were never lonely and never afraid when we were together. I know that the night is not the same as the day, that all things are different, that the things of the night cannot be explained in the day because they do not then exist, and the night can be a dreadful time for lonely people once their loneliness has started. But with Catherine, there was almost no difference in the night, except that it was an even better time. If people bring so much courage to this world, the world has to kill them, to break them. So, of course, it kills them. The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong at the broken places. But those that will not break, it kills. It kills the very good and the very gentle and the very brave impartially. If you are none of these, you can be sure it will kill you too, but there will be no special hurry. So, that theme is returned to at the end. The last couple of chapters are absolutely harrowing. I've never read anything like it, and I almost want to say I hope never to do so again. But Michael Ventura said that Hemingway talks about being broken. The image we have is of this macho guy, but all of his stories deal with people being broken by life. And he always inserts into his novels a component of love, human love. It's a very vital theme to this author. So that I'm very much appreciated the story of this relationship. In many respects, it is more the story of a romance than a story that really has anything to do with the war. The war is sort of a backdrop, but that really was not the focus. And in fact, I mean, somebody said this was the definitive American novel of World War I and the definitive anti-war novel. I would say not. I mean, I don't know if it's a definitive war novel, but I don't think it's really at its heart a war novel. And the sense of the character is that he doesn't particularly want to be involved in a war. He has no love of war. But it is not an out-and-out anti-war novel. It treats war as an accepted reality. But life is better not involved with war. But so he comes back to a similar theme. While trying not to reveal too much here if you're planning to read this. That was what you did. You died. You did not know what it was about. You never had time to learn. They threw you in and told you the rules, and the first time they caught you off base, they killed you. Or they killed you gratuitously like Imo. Or gave you the syphilis like Rinaldi. But they killed you in the end. You could count on that. Stay around and they would kill you. That has nothing to do with the war. That is a philosophy of life. And that, while that one paragraph was described as Hemingway's perfect paragraph, and I will concede that, nevertheless, the philosophy is not especially good philosophy. And so there you see, despite all of the narrative excellence of the novel, the philosophy is poorly. And elsewhere I have talked about the Robert Scholl's essay about Hemingway from his book Semiotics and Interpretation, I think. Maybe I can find that and put a link to that as well. And I think that, which I read first in Taiwan, I borrowed the book from actually he gave it to me, a guy that I was staying with at a hostel or something for a while. And that essay has influenced me greatly throughout my whole life, and in fact caused me never to pick up Hemingway again until now. I had before that, I think, read Nick Adams and the other Movable Feast. And he takes a very short story, I think that's the title of it, in fact, and dissects it and shows you the truth behind the biographical truth behind the fabrications of the Hemingway story and also other stories. And once you have deconstructed Hemingway a little bit like that, then you can see behind some of that. So I think he tried to present himself a little bit more than he was. He wanted to de-emphasize the incel aspect of his character and emphasize the alpha male aspect of his character. I'm using these terms just to make a broad distinction. I don't think they really apply specifically. But like in that first paragraph that I read, he talks about being alone with all these other women, blah, blah, blah. I think he was just trying to pose. He wants to set up a sense of a person perhaps that is more worldly than indeed he may have felt at the time. And the contrast with my third novel in that respect is striking. My third novel was Season of Migration to the North, Tayeb Salih. And in this story, we follow a man who is something of I'm trying to think of the right word, a sexual dynamo, perhaps, maybe, I don't know the story of Don Juan or Don Juan, as some people have said. I don't really know the story, but a man who, because of his personality and also partly because of his situation, finds himself having women conquests, if you will, sexual conquests, throw themselves at his feet. And so there is a very sensual and erotic component to this novel, which you do not find in the Hemingway. Now, while the Hemingway proceeded in a very linear fashion, this is very different. It begins in a linear fashion, and then everything as it progressed, and maybe it points to a flaw in the construction. Everything gets more shattered in feeling. There's a lot of backtracking, narratives told from different points of view. So it's a bit of a jumble. What that does, however, is that it makes this a book that I would really like to reread with the foreknowledge of some of the events and see if I can piece it together a little bit better. I don't think I would read A Farewell to Arms again, because while it was perfect in its way, everything was pretty much up front and on the surface. As I say, very linear. So one of the first quotations that I really noticed about this, if I can see it, this character says to our narrator, "I shall say things to you I've said to no one before. I found no reason for doing so until now. I have decided to do so lest your imagination run away with you, since you have studied poetry." He laughed so as to soften the edge of scorn that was evident in his voice. So right off, you are tipped off that poetry is going to be a running theme in the novel, as indeed it becomes. One would expect poetry to be parallel with the erotic or the sensual in a novel. The story proceeds as something of a mystery. This character that I have described a little bit is something of a mysterious figure, and then the rest of the novel is our narrator trying to piece together more about who this man is or was. Now, mind you, I spoke of the harrowing last couple of chapters of the Hemingway novel. This has some violent action, which is just absolutely beyond the pale. In that respect, this seems much more like a Greek tragedy. The Hemingway, it's more like a very harrowing melodrama, maybe a very harrowing television miniseries, that kind of thing. But this hits you more to the level of Greek tragedy. I saw somewhere, I think I looked up the author because I don't know Tayeb Salih, and saw somewhere, I thought, I can't find it again to confirm that he was a teacher of, I think it was pre-modern Arabic poetry or something like that, or a student of that, maybe a student. And I thought, oh, possibly there will be something about Abu Nuwas in here. That would be nice, I thought. And indeed, Abu Nuwas appeared. And if you are familiar with this poet, you will find this scene uproarious in an aspect. He is a lecturer, this man, and he is on the podium, and this is him talking now, and the story is how he meets one of these women with whom he goes on to have relations with. Let's see if I can find a good place to start. Well, he starts with, let me see. Unlike me, she yearned for tropical climes, cruel suns, purple horizons. In her eyes, I was a symbol of all these hankerings of hers. I am south that yearns for the north and the ice. She owned a flat in Hampstead overlooking the heath, which she would go to from Oxford at weekends. We would spend Saturday night at my place and Sunday night at hers, and sometimes she would stay on over Monday, sometimes for the whole week. Then she began absenting herself from the university for a month at a time, then 2, until she was sent down. She used to bury her face under my armpit and breathe me into herself, as though inhaling some narcotic smoke. Her face would be puckered with pleasure. I love your sweat, she would say, as though intoning rites in a temple. I want to have the smell of you in full, the smell of rotting, the smell of rotting leaves in the jungles of Africa, the smell of the mango and the pawpaw and tropical spices, the smell of rains in the deserts of Arabia. She was an easy prey. I had met her following a lecture I gave in Oxford on Abu Nuwas. I told them that Omar Khayyam was nothing in comparison with Abu Nuwas. I read them some of his poetry about wine in a comic oratorical style, which I claimed was how Arabic poetry used to be recited in the Abbasid era. In the lecture, I said that Abu Nuwas was a Sufi mystic and that he had made of wine a symbol with which to express all his spiritual yearnings, that the longing for wine in his poetry was really a longing for self-obliteration in the divine. All errant nonsense with no basis of fact. However, I was inspired that evening and found the lies tripping off my tongue like sublime truths. Feeling that my elation was communicating itself to my audience, I lied more and more extravagantly. After the lecture, they all crowded round me, retired civil servants who had worked in the East, old women whose husbands had died in Egypt, Iraq, and the Sudan, men who had fought with Kitchener and Allenby, Orientalists and officials in the Colonial Office and the Middle East section of the Foreign Office. Suddenly, I saw a girl of 18 or 19 rushing towards me through the ranks of people. So you get a real strong sense of the passion, the passionate drive of this character. What did he say? She was an easy prey. That was his word. But I loved the part about Abu Nuwas. A couple of years ago, I read the Arabian Nights, and Abu Nuwas figures in the Arabian Nights as a character. There are at least 3, I think, anecdotes pertaining to Abu Nuwas, and so I pursued him further. I read this book by Philip Kennedy. There's actually a nice translation of his works by Kennedy. I like Kennedy very much, that I want to buy. I have it on my list, and it is something like $260. I can't buy it unless some kind of a windfall comes in. And when that, windfall comes in, then I will do it. And when you are familiar with the poetry of Nuwas, then you realize just the hysterical funniness of everything that our character was telling his audience. And I know of, personal instances like that. One of my friends was at one time a tour guide somewhere, and he told me how he would just make things up, and everybody just accepted whatever he said. And I have also, of course, being in the Chinese community or adjacent to it for a long time, one occasionally finds situations where somebody overtalks his subject for the benefit of the white man. So we're getting into this whole sort of colonialist theme, which novels are largely derived from the colonial experience. And I think that that our author, Tayeb Salih, captured that very well. His very exoticness was one of the features which gave our character an edge with the ladies, if you will. We have this app that monitors how I drive, and if I drive well, I get a dollar amount which can be spent at an online vendor. And I have a cart with all of these things, and I was trying to upload the coupon or the reward for having driven well and could not get it to upload. And so I thought, well, let me take another tack. I'll just try to buy something and then apply the coupon or the coupon code. I did that, and I went into my cart and I said, what is there for this price in my cart, which is basically my wish list. And this was there. I've shown it on the channel. And so I popped it in to the cart, No, it was in the saved for later. So I popped it into the cart, put in the coupon code, applied it. It worked. And so I am possessed of this book. I'm a little bit disappointed in that it's a thin book. It was a pricey book. I love the cover, however. And I mean, some of this is not real, like, useful to me. There's just pages and pages of this. But it does, here and there, I am sure, treat of Abu Nuwas. I checked, he is in the index, but I have not started this book yet, and I don't know when I will, but I am sure I will get to it before long, because it's been in my saved for later cart for a long time. I should show you the other book I have of Abu Nuwas, which is this. I don't know that I probably have read everything in here, but I don't read poetry books like this from cover to cover. I dip in, and I think these translations are much less literal than the few translations that Kennedy provides here. They're much more, I guess, trying to catch the spirit and trying to make something of interest of their own right in English. So fidelity to the original, I get the sense, is not really a hallmark of this translator's work. But nevertheless, one seeks out information and poems where one can find them. If you are familiar with this book, you will know it's Songs of the Nights, but then and Abu Nuwas. This is a book that I wrote after reading the Arabian Nights those couple of years ago. The Arabian Nights is a just marvelous tapestry of stories, anecdotes, weird alien landscapes, magical beings, demons. But interspersed with the text, there are lots and lots of poems or songs. And just as I was reading the book, I was inspired by many of these. I read it in the Penguin Classics 3-volume edition, which is very good and very worthwhile to read. And I was inspired by many of these poems or songs to fiddle with them. That is not uncommon for me. And to make regular English language poems out of them. And so that is what this book is. It is a thing of 80 poems, I think. Well, I don't have a number here. And the very last poem is one from Abu Nuwas, a very loose translation. I don't know if I should read it. I won't read it to you, but it's titled A Riff on Abu Nuwas. So that is my reading experience of late. Went on longer than I expected to and did not go into the books in detail. These recent reads videos are just sort of my haphazard discussion of whatever pops into my head pertaining to any of these books. Sometimes I will do individual videos about this or that book, so I don't feel obliged to delve into anything too deeply in the recent reads video. I also don't feel compelled to give a comprehensive overview or to give any kind of a review. I certainly don't review these books. I just give impressions. So I will leave off there. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel. I should say all of these books are recommended. every book. I read Hammett. I loved it. I enjoyed it. Then I read Hemingway. I loved it. I enjoyed it. And I said, I like it even better than the one before. And then I read Season of Migration to the North, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. And I loved it even better than the one before. So I don't know if that's a reflection of the quality, but that was how I experienced these three novels. Again, thank you very much for stopping by.